You're in Uncontrolled Airspace. EAARadio welcomes back the long-running general aviation podcast Uncontrolled Airspace to share the microphone for 90 minutes of virtual hangar flying. Now here are the voices in your head, the UCAP gang, editor Jeb Burnside, journalist Dave Higgin, and new media producer Jack Hodgson.
Good morning and welcome to Oshkosh. And welcome to Uncontrolled Airspace, the general aviation podcast. We are coming to you once again, making our annual pilgrimage to one of our favorite places on Earth, the grounds of the 2018 edition of the AirVenture Oshkosh Air Show. I'm Jack Hodgson, and I'm here with my partner and good friend Dave Higdon, and we're going to spend the next hour and a half talking with some of our friends and reminiscing about the week and maybe some of our past air ventures as well. Our third partner, Jeb Burnside, had to leave early, so he's gone, which is, I can't give him too much of a hard time because I had to arrive late, so it's one of those years. But good morning, David. How you doing?
Up ambulatory, not in the morning obit, so I'm off to a good start.
I saw you wander out this morning from the campground and come back with 3 cups of coffee, all right?
Well, I didn't want to be like some people and come back empty-handed in case somebody else wanted
that's
one.
Your story, and you're sticking to it, but I saw you drink at least 2 of them, so there you go.
Number 3.
He's on 3. He's got 3 in his hand right now. We're also being joined right now by another two more of our very good friends. Amy LeBoat is here. Hi, Amy. How you doing?
Hi. And do you know this has been one of my 10-day Oshkoshes? There are very few of those.
There are very few. We're very lucky to get you on Sunday morning. Usually we get you earlier in the week on the podcast, and you usually bug out. And we may talk a little bit later on about why you are still here on Sunday morning. But
yes.
We are the big winners in that regard. And also here is James Winbrand, who we haven't talked to in a while, at least on the podcast. How you doing, James?
No, I'm doing great, and I guess day 9 of my usual 10-day gig here, so it's been great. It's been fantastic and wonderful to be with you folks again.
It's great to have you. It's great to hear. Amy's been on EAARadio all week long, and we're going to probably hear some stories about that. James has been writing for the AirVenture Today Daily all week long, and I expect we'll hear some stories about that. David's been drinking coffee, all right? No, David continues to be one of the hardest working people at AirVenture, all right, doing a lot of different things, right, David?
Yeah, this is like mining for gold for some of my clientele, and then doing some of the dailies with Jeb, and then solo, and then with Jack back, and so it's not been a dull week by a long shot.
Yeah. We are out here once again on the very edge of the flight line. We are in the announcer's stand where normally the airshow announcers will be reporting the activities of the day. But we've taken it over for an hour and a half here, and we have an awesome view of airplanes that are coming and going.
Nothing like the sound of a T6 prop tips breaking the sound barrier.
There you go, yeah. We're going to be talking about a lot of airplanes. We're doing something a little different this year. Many of you will be listening to the audio version of this podcast as usual. We are also, a listener came up with a great idea, which was for us to also, since we talk about things we see on the flight line, why don't we record some video? So we've got just a couple of cameras aimed at the flight line that we're recording. Unfortunately, you can't see them live, but we will be doing something with that, matching it up with this audio so that you can sort of get a video-enhanced version of the podcast. And David's made me promise not to put him on it, so it's not enhanced in that way. But yeah. We saw earlier that the newly restored B-29 Doc has already, we don't know if they've departed for keeps or if it's just out giving a ride, but they took off while we were in pre-show here.
From what I heard earlier with some of my friends in Wichita have spent months qualifying as crew on that airplane. Mm-hmm. And I believe they're headed southbound to Kansas.
So they're gone for the day.
I believe so.
Yeah. But there's still a lot of activity. The Bombardier, right? It's Bombardier or Canadair? It's Canadair. Viking fire bomber is taxiing out now, or being towed out onto from the west ramp from Boeing Plaza.
So they're just getting ready to fire up those big round engines. They're doing the right side right now.
Yeah. If anybody's actually looking at this video, you're seeing that airplane right now.
That's a CL-214.
Yeah.
And it's been superseded by the 415, which is a turboprop version with even higher capacity. These things can scoop up a load of water by just skimming the surface.
Yeah.
In about 7 or 8 seconds, they're full.
They are, in fact, cranking those engines right now. The one on near side here just starting up with a big puff of smoke coming out. And we'll talk a little bit more about that as it taxis out. But a lot of airplanes, all different sites. I see a Bonanza now on the takeoff roll and just lifting off. We've got a biplane. Is that is it a Stearman or is it a? I'm not sure what that biplane is.
No, because it's actually got. I thought I saw a canopy open.
Possibly. And then I'm gonna hazard to guess that this is a 170.
Yeah.
The tail dragger, silver and red, that's taxiing
Or
by.
even a 180.
Well,
I think it might be early 180 because
Yeah.
it's got the extra windows.
Yeah, that's what I see too,
So,
Dave.
There are a lot of 170s here, though, because this is the 70th anniversary of the 170.
Oh, I didn't
so
know that. Okay, yeah.
a number of pilots made it a point to be here that might not otherwise be.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's been an interesting week. I've only got 2 days of it. David, how and all you guys were here all week long. The crowd seemed to be good. The weather had its moments, but generally was very good.
Yeah, this is day 11 for me.
Yep.
Arrived Thursday evening. Thursday night it stormed. Friday it stormed. Saturday it stormed. Not full time, just enough to make you run for shelter. Sunday they were arriving IFR until about 11 in the morning.
Right.
And then it was Katie bar the door coming in VFR.
Yeah.
And then we had really beautiful weather until Wednesday evening, when just about the time the night air show was supposed to start, Mother Nature said, I'm going to dampen your spirits just a tad. EAA very wisely rescheduled to Thursday night for that show. Great Friday, Saturday night we had a beautiful night air show and fireworks. But the crowd has been tremendous. It was amazing how quickly they filled the North 40 and then started running them south toward the Fond du Lac city limits and got full down there.
Yeah.
The buildings have been full. There were times when you almost had to shoehorn your way through. The vendors have been smiling all week. People are buying. The mood's really upbeat. We're not having any big clashes with our friendly aviation agency. Things seem to be moving along. There was some good news for the light sport people that there's a rulemaking in progress that, if completed successfully, will raise the weight limit on light sport aircraft.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
to match the European limit.
All right. Let's talk about that a little bit later on. But just sort of, Amy and James, how's the week been for you? Amy, you were in the radio station all week long. And
I was.
Did you get out and about much?
Not as much as I'd like to, but yes, according to my step counter, I made my 5 miles or more a day, which is always my goal here at AirVenture. So I got through all the exhibit halls. I did get to walk around. I think the only thing I missed was the fun fly zone, which is ultralights.
Yeah, I want to talk about that too in a little bit too.
They didn't have a treadmill on the radio station or something, did
No, there were no treadmills. I got all the way down to Warburg's and I was working my way towards the fun fly zone. I did drive under it a couple times on my way in and out to work. So.
And James, how about you? You actually do get out because you have to go out and talk with people for the newspaper.
Or I get to talk to people, depending on how you look at it. And I prefer the latter. And obviously, the people here, as they say, wonderful airplanes, but it's all about the people. And I did have a chance to meet a number of great people and people who really had the spirit, starting with that weekend when the weather was a bit on the inclement side. I got in on Friday myself. Probably could have done a visual, but they were having people that had slots filed do the approach in. And that weekend, of course, we did have some soggy weather, and I went out to talk to some of the folks who had arrived early. Their spirits were not at all dampened, and talked about all the things they were doing and all the ways you could have fun without sun at Oshkosh.
There are plenty of them. That is correct.
You know, and I get that was a thing earlier in the week because by the time I arrived, the weather turned just beautiful. And,
yes.
It's looking to be a little bit warm and humid today, Sunday, but yesterday was a spectacularly beautiful day.
We had gorgeous weather.
Temperature and humidity was just perfect yesterday, if you ask me. And,
I agree with you completely. I spent the afternoon outside watching airplanes.
Mm-hmm, yeah. The Canadair
Some of you may be able to hear this in the background, but that rumble you're hearing is that CL-214 waiting for the oil to get warm enough to take off.
Yeah, and as our luck always holds, it will probably take off during the break, which is coming up in just a couple minutes here, but well, we'll see how that goes. Yeah. What else has been going on? We saw the Aeroshell team take off just a few minutes ago. They're likely coming back. They go out and do practice and give rides and
I
whatnot.
just saw one of the only Waco Classics on amphib floats go by.
I saw that. That's what that was. What makes that special? Just
again, one more time. How many biplanes have you seen on amphib floats recently?
Yeah.
It must be a whopping 85-knot cruiser with those floats on there.
It was never very fast, even without the floats.
And that's not the point of it anyway.
Mm-hmm. Yep. We also saw a B-17 took off before we began. I believe it was aluminum overcast, the EAA B-17, and it was. It's still a happening place. If you are, and Sunday, the show is not over. There's a better part of a day left to go. There's an air show this afternoon. There's still a lot of show planes here to take a look at. James, yeah?
Still time to put a rivet into 1 Week Wonder.
Well, yeah. Unfortunately, it is. I don't know whether they're going to get to taxi yet. They're supposed to taxi before the day is out. And
2:30 they officially end.
It's still 2:30.
Oh,
okay.
As of yesterday, I talked to the folks who are running it, and they said they're on track.
Yeah.
So we're hoping to get a visit from Charlie Becker, the guy that spark plugs that whole program, and give us an update.
Yep. In the meantime, we'll be back in just a few minutes to tell you more about what we're seeing here this morning on Sunday morning at AirVenture 2018. In the meantime, you're listening to a very special episode of Uncontrolled Airspace on EAARadio.
I'm Frank Borman. I commanded Gemini 7 and Apollo 8.
I'm Jim Lovell, commander of Apollo 13.
I'm Al Worden, command module pilot on Apollo 15.
And you're listening to EAARadio.
Thanks to Nautel for their support of EAARadio. Nautel is a global leader in the manufacture, design, sales, and support of navigational radio beacons, differential GPS transmitters, and high-power radio frequency products for AM and FM broadcast. For more than 40 years, Nautel has been delivering radio frequency solutions to more than 8,000 customers in 177 countries. More information can be found at nautel.com.
Get close to the action with From the Stand at 10 a.m. You can hear real-time takeoff and landing updates from the flight line. You can also catch great conversations with pilots and VIPs with host Steve Buss. That's From the Stand, 10 a.m. on EAARadio.
At 11 a.m., tune in to Attitude Adjustment. Magazine editor and flight instructor Amy Laboda and senior editor of Flying Magazine and publisher of Jetwine.com, Rob Mark, take you through the hour with engaging interviews and viewpoints. Check out Attitude Adjustment on EAARadio.
Good morning, Oshkosh. Today is the last day of AirVenture, and my name is Spencer Schott, bringing you this EAA Radio News Update. The EAA's signature fundraiser has raised nearly $2.4 million this year to go towards youth education. The biggest item auctioned off was a one-of-a-kind Ford Mustang that was sold for more than $400,000. The Mustang had a special design that was inspired by the British Spitfire planes. Today is the last day for any final touches to be added to the 1 Week Wonder. The whole project started at 8 a.m. Monday morning with the goal to build an entire airplane in just 7 days. The last time the EAA attempted to build a plane in a week was back in 2014. This year, the 1 Week Wonder team is building a Vans RV-12IS. Members of the public were encouraged to participate in the building process. 1 Week Wonder coordinator Charlie Becker wants to express his gratitude for everyone that helped out with the project.
Just really want to thank the industry support. We had so many great sponsors that have, everybody we asked said absolutely they want to be a part of it. I mean, this is a big undertaking with both volunteers And of course, I got to thank them, because without the volunteer help, this thing wouldn't get off the ground.
Every year at AirVenture Oshkosh, hundreds of aircraft arrive to be entered in a highly competitive and highly sought-after Lindy Award. Named after the legendary aviator Charles Lindbergh, the Lindy Awards look into an aircraft's look, of course, but the degree of craftsmanship involved plays an important role as well. Award-winning aircraft don't just look pretty, but they're carefully built, restored, or maintained by their owners, who take great pride in them. Aircraft can be entered into one of 6 categories: home-built, warbirds, vintage, ultralights, seaplanes, and rotorcraft. Aircraft can only be entered in one category per year and are not eligible for the same or lower tier awards if they've won in the past. A complete list of the Lindy Awards can be found on EAA's website. Reporting for EAA Radio News, I'm Spencer Schott.
Dave Higdon has realized his friends aren't being honest with him.
Him talking about himself was nominated for a Pulitzer Prize for fiction.
Back now with more Uncontrolled Airspace on EAA Radio.
We're back here at Uncontrolled Airspace on EAA Radio, AirVenture 2018.
Live at the 2018 AirVenture. Again,
right. Yeah.
They keep inviting us back.
Well, go figure. The Aeroshell team just cruised in for a land. Actually, they're completing. Is this the 5th ship, maybe?
Yeah.
They made this kind of beautiful approach, a short approach from the east, and now turning final, the last of the Aeroshells, and just about coming over the blue dot, which is sort of the beginning of the runway up here on the north-south runway, and cruising in here. Yeah.
That may be the preferred way to approach and get yourself on the runway in the future. The Loss of Control NTSB Roadshow showed up here, and one of the things they talked about during the forum was not squaring the pattern.
Oh, see, David talked about this. All right, David, you just woke David up. What do you have to say about that, David?
It's something that my hang gliding taught me.
Uh-huh.
Some of the fields, as our gliders got better, some of the fields became too small to do the kind of square box stuff that we'd been taught. So we did inside the tree line, continuous descent, and a 180 turn to final. And when I started my primary training, my flight instructor said, this is, if you have an engine problem or you need to get down quick, this is the way to do it. And what I love about it is we called it a carrier approach, because if you look at World War II footage, that's what the guys did so they could keep the end of the carrier in sight all the way through the turn. And that's what I like about it. I can see the arrival end of the runway all the way through the 180, never lose sight of it, roll out, and you're home.
Mm-hmm.
And in terms of loss of control, you're not doing a 90-degree turn, maybe getting pushed a little past the center line, deciding, I got to overbank a little more, loss of control.
Yeah.
So that's one of the recommendations, or one of the things they're looking into.
And if it's safer, that's the most important thing. It's a very pretty approach, I've always thought.
Yeah.
Well, and it's very easy to teach, because you tell the student to put the wingtip on the end of the runway and start turning. And just keep it there.
Yeah.
So it's a turn around a point, which is already something they've learned.
But
it
boy,
works.
Man, does it ever cook up a debate with some of the older pilots. And
aren't we some of the older pilots?
Yeah. Sorry about that, David.
Gee, you're right. It is all relative, Amy. But to me, the important part is learning to do both, and then do what's right for the circumstances.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yep. The airplanes continue to be rolling around here. A lot of just general aviation, personal airplanes taking off in front of us. The Viking firebomber is on the taxiway, and it's a very, I don't know what I want to call it, democratic egalitarian thing. It's lined up behind a VTOL Bonanza and a Waco biplane, just waiting its turn to go down to wherever it is it's headed.
And the Cherokee behind is giving a wide berth.
Yeah. Caution prop turbulence.
And then there's a Commander behind that, and a Comanche airplane behind that.
Yeah, and
a 150 or 152 behind that.
Yeah.
There's the Waco Classic on amphib floats.
Yeah, there it is.
Now he's on his roll.
Uh-huh.
And it looks like that's a 35 Charlie Bonanza. It's got the third window.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
What a pretty airplane.
I was mentioning what a beautiful day it was yesterday. As the sun was setting last evening, we're staying over in Camp Scholler in the Camp Bacon encampment, David and Jeb and I, and I wandered over to the edge. We're sort of near the south edge of that part of Camp Scholler, and I wandered over to the edge of basically the fence line of Camp Scholler, and I was standing there. I was looking at what drew me over there was the powered parachutes were flying from the ultralight field, and that was kind of cool. And that triggered a memory for me, which is that my very first Oshkosh ever, I camped somewhere right along that fence line. All right, it was my first time ever. I had flown in with a buddy. This is when I was living in California. We flew in from California in his Bonanza. We were unable to park here. I don't remember exactly what the situation was, but they wouldn't let us into Whitman, so they diverted us to Fond du Lac. We landed at Fond du Lac. I had all my gear packed up in relatively small containers. Took the shuttle bus up here to the grounds. The grounds were much smaller than then. This is 28 years ago. The grounds were smaller. The buses dropped us off what is now, it's actually now the bus drop off outside the new tower building. Mm-hmm. Back then, that was outside the airport fence. That was all public property. I'll pause this story for a second to say that the Viking firebomber is now on the takeoff roll. Heading on southbound departure here. I don't know if you guys can hear that.
How can they not hear that? I can feel it.
That's a pretty impressive looking airplane.
And of course, the takeoff roll is relatively short without a fuselage full of water.
Full of water or retardant of some sort. Yeah, right. It's and now he's doing a pretty decent climb out. That's impressive. Yeah, good stuff. So
it's designed to come into small lakes, pick up water, and then highly maneuverable to get up. All mission oriented.
Yeah. So back in 1991, when I arrived for that first visit to AirVenture, the bus dropped us off there at the just outside what was then outside the fence. Now it's well inside the fence, and I picked up my gear. I had my little dome tent and a bag of clothes and whatnot, and hiked into Camp Scholler. I had sort of done a little research, so I sort of vaguely knew what I was doing, but never having been there before, I wandered in. I must have walked sort of near where the Red Barn is, the grocery store, the camp store, and then went, and I probably walked right across, actually, now that I think about it, the what is now Camp Bacon. I probably walked right across there because it was full. There were no places. I mean, it was like shoulder to shoulder campsites. And so I just kept walking, looking for a place to pitch my tent, and I ended up all the way down at the fence line. Now there's a road there that goes right against the fence. Back then there was about maybe 10 feet of grass between the fence and the little road over there. And I found a little patch of grass that was just barely big enough for my little dome tent, and I pitched my tent there along the fence, and it was dark. It was must have been 10 or 11 o'clock at night by now, and rolled into my tent and fell asleep. And then I woke up the next morning. I could see the light through the tent, that it was clearly daylight, and I heard this funny buzzing sound. I couldn't, what the buzzing? And the buzz, and I stuck my head out the tent and looked around, and the first thing I saw at Oshkosh was the ultralights flying that morning, doing the big circle out there. And
that was before they lengthened the runway 1836 by a considerable amount.
Probably was, yeah. But that's my earliest memory of coming to AirVenture was trudging over there, finding a little spot, but getting up in the morning and hearing the noise and then realizing, oh, that's airplanes. Yeah, and that was pretty cool. As the morning goes on, I'm going to ask you other guys what your first memory of AirVenture was, but we're coming up on our break right now. We're told that the B-29 dock is someplace holding and is going to either return or do a flyby or something like that, and so hopefully we'll be able to describe that for you.
Oh, that'd be cool.
But in the meantime, we've just got a lot of airplanes coming and going here, mostly going, but it's, what else has been going on? The ultralight field is interesting. How much time? We've got like a couple minutes here, I think? Yeah, 3 minutes. The ultralight, so I still call it the ultralight field. I think a lot of people call it the ultralight field, and it will always be. But now what are they calling it, Amy? You said earlier?
The flying zone.
Fun fly zone.
Yeah, we used to call it the farm.
The farm. That's what people would call. I knew there was a name for it. I couldn't remember what that was.
It is a farm.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's no question about that.
But it's a very, so about David, what was it, 8 or so? You referred to it earlier as a nadir, right? A nadir. Right?
Yeah.
The low point for the farm, all right, when it got really sparse down there, and there wasn't a lot of activity, and there were fewer vendors and things like that. And that was about maybe 8-ish years ago, give or take. And then things started to change, and more activities started flowing down there. The LSA folks arrived. A lot of other things.
Cafes, so there's place to eat.
And now, man, it's a happening place. It is as densely, concentrated with stuff as any other part.
Well, the helicopters are down there.
The helicopters are down there. Like James said, there's a couple of nice cafes down there now. And a lot of evening activities. On evenings when there's no night air show, they had 2 nights this year. They had, I think they called it the Twilight Flight Fest or something like that, where they had the who are those powered parachute guys that have lights and they swing? What are they? Paradigm, and so they're down there doing their show on those 2 evenings. Mm-hmm. A group called the Flying Cowboys, all right, which is a group of off backwoods, fat tire, if you will, pilots. So they're tail draggers. We're down there doing. Let's see if I can do it, David. Stole. Remember, see,
it's like Stoli without the I.
No, that's not going to work for me. I cannot remember an aviation thing with a vodka reference. That's just wrong. So that was down there a couple evenings. There's just a lot of fun things. If you come to AirVenture and don't go down to the ultralight field because you think, well, I'm not an ultralight person, then you're missing stuff.
Yeah.
Because there's a lot of interesting things going on down there.
And on the way, you could run across a foam aircraft.
I want to hear about that, too. That's on my list for sure, James. I was tickled to discover that you wrote the article about that because I want to hear your impressions of that.
Sure.
But I think we're coming up on our break here. It's just a beautiful morning, Sunday morning here at AirVenture 2018. The AeroShell team is parked right out in front of us here and waiting for their next mission. Airplanes all lined up. I see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, must be about 10 airplanes on the taxiway waiting to go into position, to line up and wait. And it's just a lot of beautiful things going on. A lot of airplanes. Some people have left, but still a lot going on here. In the meantime,
they're going to wait for this jet back there.
Yeah, is there a jet lined up to take off?
It is lined up at the end of the runway.
Yeah, okay.
You'll see.
All right.
We'll see, but we won't hear because we got to take a break. We'll be back in just a few minutes to talk more about AirVenture 2018. You're listening to a very special episode of Uncontrolled Airspace on EAARadio.
You're tuned to EAA Radio, 96.5 FM, 1210 AM, and online at EAARadio.net. EAA Radio is supported in part by Discovery World, located in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. Discovery World connects innovation, science, technology, and the environment with exploration and learning. Discovery World has interactive exhibits, entertainment, and experimental learning programs for all ages. Find out more at discoveryworld.org. Thank you to Discovery World for their continued support of EAA Radio.
Hey, did you know it's the 100th anniversary of the Royal Air Force?
No.
Well, did you know there'll be 2 giant drone light shows at AirVenture this year?
Nope.
Well, did you hear that there are volunteers building the 1 Week Wonder?
Dude, how do you know all this stuff?
I've been listening to EAA Radio. They have news updates throughout the day that tell you everything you need to know about AirVenture, from big events happening on Boeing Plaza to exclusive features about unique pilots.
That's so cool. I'll have to listen to the news on EAA Radio.
Tune in and tag along with Captain Midnight and Company at 11:30 on Sunday as their mission sweeps them around the globe, propelling them into riveting twists and turns. We will be re-airing 2 episodes of this classic 1940s radio program back-to-back, reverberating the adventure into this century with thrills and frills aplenty. Tune in Sunday at 11:30 to experience the excitement, mystery, and suspense of Captain Midnight. That's Sunday at 11:30 on EAA Radio.
You're listening to EAA Radio. I'm meteorologist Michaela Erickson. Temperatures will be rising into the mid-70s by 1 p.m. today, with westerly winds sitting around 5 knots. Cloud cover will increase to partly sunny skies as the day moves forward, with a slight chance of rain and thunderstorms in the afternoon. Have a fantastic day of AirVenture, and thanks for listening to EAA Radio.
There's a lot to see and do at AirVenture Oshkosh, which makes for a lot of ground to cover. AirVenture offers free shuttle services on the grounds. Shuttles run from 6:30 a.m. to 11:30 p.m. every single day, and 6:30 a.m. to 6:30 p.m. on Sunday. The shuttles can get you from the Vintage area, Ultralight area, Seaplane Base, FAA ATC Tower, exhibit hangars, Warbirds area, forums, workshops, KidVenture, the EAA Aviation Museum, and just about everywhere else. The shuttle stops only at designated stops, not in between, and are accessible for guests with disabilities. The full shuttle schedule and routes can be found online at airventure.org in the camping/visitors guide and on the EAA AirVenture app. So rest those tired feet while you move quickly about the AirVenture grounds on the free shuttle service. Why, it's almost like flying. A little.
Jeb Burnside has solved the problem of leaded fuels in aviation.
I consider Uncle Jeb's Backyard Avgas to be a rational company.
Back now with more Uncontrolled Airspace on EAARadio.
I'm losing track here. Is Jeb taking more than his fair share of the Mike Morgan love this morning?
I've been wondering about that. Of course, we didn't get to see the two of them together, but it does make me suspicious.
Oh, I never thought of it that way.
Maybe some brown bottles changed hands or something like that.
Oh, but wait a minute. I would think that the bribery would get him less exposure, not more. I'm not sure.
You never know with barley pops.
That's right. We're back here on the flight line of AirVenture 2018. I'm Jack. I'm here with Dave and Amy and James, and we're just like, it's hard to do. We came here. We want to do a podcast and talk to you folks and tell you what's going on, but it's just such a spectacular sight here.
Oh yeah, we are like kids in a candy shop.
Yeah.
We are so distracted.
Yeah, it's such a treat to be able to get up here on the announcer stand and get this spectacular view of the field and of the operations in front of us. And
sometimes it makes us go,
yeah,
look at that.
I literally found myself speechless a moment ago. I was like going, oh, that's really cool. Oh, yeah, right, talk on the podcast. So, yeah, beautiful morning. It is turning out to be warm. Fortunately, they've lowered the awning for us out here, so we got a little bit of shade. But it's just beautiful. Lots of airplanes taking off here, and the occasional show plane coming and going. There was a fighter plane came by just as the break was starting.
FA-18 went out.
That was good and loud, turning your tax dollars into decibels.
Nothing like twin turbojets.
Yeah. We're being joined right now by a new friend of the podcast and an interesting, I don't know what to characterize, player in the aviation world here. Sean Chuplis is with us. Sean is the owner and, founder, chief bottle washer of Crew Dog Electronics. Hi, Sean. How you doing?
Good. Excited. This is my first Oshkosh. So, like you mentioned, being a kid in a candy store, definitely feeling that. Been going to air shows since I was a kid, but I spent a majority of my life in the military, so it's the first time I actually had time off to come here, and it's just... I think to call it an air show is a little unfair. This is kind of like an air experience being with all these people. So
I couldn't agree more. Absolutely. What you're here showing off some new products, new ideas. Tell us about that. What are you doing?
Yeah, so what I make is a open source ADS-B in receiver. My background military, I flew KC-10s. I was an instructor, and I was flying G4s in Hawaii and went back to doing some CFI work. And I wanted to get an ADS-B in receiver for myself. But the only things on the market at the time were around $1,000, and I just didn't have that to shell out. So I talked to a friend of mine who was a programmer, and he said, hey, have you heard of this open source project called Stratix? And at the time, it was this kind of only on online message boards. You'd have to piece this thing together with a board, and there's antennas and not really great-looking cases. But so I put one together. A few friends of mine said, hey, you built this. Can you build one for me? So I went on, and I started selling these on Amazon about a year ago, and it's really taken off. It's been pretty popular. It gives ADS-B receivers at a price point that most people can afford. And I really believe in it because as an instructor and someone who's been in the military for a long time and flying, I think ADS-BN has really changed the safety of my flying. So being able to see traffic, live weather, and even having a backup attitude, really been a game changer for me. So I'm just out here meeting people for the first time. A lot of my customers coming up and shaking my hand, which is really cool, and I'm hearing their flying stories. It's been very energizing.
That's great. I know that. So can people is this available for sale just online or?
So before, it's only been on sale on Amazon. Actually, I'm the top-selling ADS-B receiver on Amazon. You type in ADS-B, I'm what pops up, and then the website, Crew Dog Electronics. But for now, I'm actually selling it in person here at Oshkosh. So run a little special at my booth 790 back in the fly market. And yeah, first time doing in-person sales.
Yeah. And this is ready to use when you sell it to them?
Yeah, ready to use. So my target market is really people that don't have a lot of tech background. So people that they know how to use an iPad, but they don't want to assemble something and put things on a board. So because I spend a lot of time as an instructor, I take pride in telling people things in a way that they can understand. So I have a quick little YouTube video when you open it up, and all you do is put on a couple of antennas, put a battery pack on it, and you're set to go. And even people that do want to take the route of building it their own, I have a YouTube channel, Crew Dog Electronics. I show you the parts list and hey, if you want to build your own, this is how I do it.
Yeah.
And it has attitude capability?
Yeah, it has. So it has GPS, WAAS-enabled GPS. It's got weather, traffic, and also has a backup attitude sensor. So actually, some of my friends that are in the military, maybe flying older aircraft, they have it as kind of an insurance policy. If something went bad on your avionics, at least you have a backup attitude indicator to get you going in the right direction.
And how does it connect to a tablet?
So it connects over Wi-Fi, and the great thing about this being open source is it works with basically anything. It works with iPad, Android, works with every major electronic flight bag software except for Garmin. So even if you're flying in the plane and say you're using iFly or ForeFlight and your buddy is using WingX, you can both display the information on your tablet even though you're using different software.
At the same time?
At the same time, yep. You can have I think there's no real limit on the users, but as many people that are in your Wi-Fi bubble on the plane.
Yep. And so this is what you're producing is a sort of a small handheld sized device.
Yep.
That's I think if I'm remembering the right device, it's sort of like 3 or 4 decks of playing cards stacked together.
Yeah,
it's
absolutely.
About that size.
It's about that size, and you can either connect it to the plane's power with a 2-amp input, or you can connect it to a battery pack. So I try to make it work for everybody. So the battery I sell it with works for about 4 hours, but if you want to get a higher capacity battery to last 10, 12 hours, you can do that. And you kind of have a freedom of choice, which is kind of the spirit of this whole open source thing. We want people to have choice, to use the software you want, to use the platform you want. And we really believe that ADS-BN, it's a publicly funded resource by the FAA. We think it should be available to everybody, and we're trying to get that out there.
Sure, yeah. I don't know if how much does it cost?
So I sell it online for $250, and here at Oshkosh selling it for $235, and I give people a larger capacity battery pack than I sell online.
For people who hear this after the show is over, they could go to crewdogelectronics.com.
Yes,
and
absolutely.
get more information. That's terrific. Well, thank you. All right, now for the important question. Tell us about flying KC-135s. That's what I want.
Well, KC-10. So actually,
KC-10s. Excuse me.
It's
Even
amazing.
Bigger.
Yeah.
It is bigger, and the big difference between the KC-10, besides the fact that we can carry the weight of the KC-135 just in fuel, we can actually receive fuel as well.
Right. Did everybody catch that? All right, there we go. All right, he's just like setting the
I get
setting
the bar.
And the 10 has drogues and booms.
Yes, we have drogue and boom, but my favorite part was doing receiver AR. So you're going up there and you've got 2 DC-10s in this airspace about 10 feet away from each other at night, sometimes in the weather. That's the most technically challenging thing I've ever done flying because I've never landed on a carrier. I've heard that's out there. But yeah, doing receiver AR, that was really interesting. And just the people that I've flown with, actually a few people on the KC-10 crew that brought in here were old friends of mine. So coming back here, my first time at Oshkosh and reconnecting with old squadron mates, being on the KC-10 again, it's just been
And what was
amazing.
your job on the KC-10?
I was a KC-10 instructor pilot.
Okay, that's great. Yeah. Well, and did you? I know you're probably trapped in the booth all week long. Did you get a chance to come out and watch them fly by occasionally?
I did. Yeah, I got a chance to come out and be out at the night air show. We spent some time in the KC-10 then as well. So yeah, I got a chance to walk around, walk to the innovation booth, and see a lot of the displays. And it's overwhelming just the magnitude of this event.
Yep, it sure is, isn't it? So I'm imagining you're going to be back next year, one way or the other.
Absolutely.
Right? Probably
absolutely.
with your product, but one way or the other.
I will be here. This is going to be an annual event for me.
So Sean, for the people that are here on the field and may want to come by and see you today, where are you?
So I'm in booth 790 in the fly market. If you go back to the fly market, I'm behind the merchandise in the food stand in the fly market up against the fence.
Very good.
Terrific. Thank you. Sean Chuplis from, did I get that right?
Yes, you did.
From Crew Dog Electronics. Thank you very much.
Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
You're very welcome.
And glad you came to our party the other night.
Yes, thanks for having me.
I didn't even make it to the party. All right, well, I was out of town.
That's another story.
Yeah, that's right.
That will come up at the board meeting.
I know, yeah. Well, Jeb missed it too, so we got you outnumbered on this board meeting. Speaking of which, tell us about the party, David. How'd it go? You have a good time?
We did have a good time. A little smaller crowd than last year.
Things bunched up on that night.
Well, the Wednesday night show getting rolled to Thursday had a little influence on that, and there was already quite a bit of stuff going on Thursday that competed, and we're happy for the crowd that we got. They were great to talk to. We went through the majority of the adult beverages and most of the sodas and most of the snacks.
Which way was the airport running that night? Was it taking off or landing over there on the end? Taking off.
Yeah.
All right, yeah. So did the B-17 fly over your heads at one point? No? That's usually one of my favorite moments.
I think were they using 27? Yeah.
Yeah.
No, we didn't catch much of that because about quarter to late, 8 or so, things started to get clamped down because the night show's about to start.
Yeah. We really love that spot, and we love going back there every year. We love meeting with the listeners, most importantly. But that spot's been very special to us for a variety of reasons, not the least of which was the airplanes that we get to watch. But everyone should be advised, and just kind of like stash this away in the back of your memory, we might have to move it to a new location next year. We'd like to not, and we're going to try and not, all right? But for those of you who kind of just put it in your calendar a year in advance, go to the Northwest Gate on Thursday night. Double check that that's really where we are next year, because things might have to change, unfortunately. But yeah, I'm sorry I wasn't there. You guys, Amy, were you there, Amy?
I was not able to be there for the very reasons that Dave mentioned.
But James was there. Oh, we got to get a headset back on James, sir.
It was a great gathering, as always. Yes. True, some people were diverted, I believe, by the night show, but the usual high-spirited crowd, wonderful to see everybody.
Yeah.
And Rick Reynolds showed up.
Yeah, Rick, our friend and former editor from AirVenture Today was there. And
who we got to see later in the week with his band Baba Ganoush playing downtown.
I heard that you guys went over to see him play.
I heard it was wonderful.
Fantastic.
Oh, it was great. A little place called Barley and Hops up on 600 block of North Main. It was jammed. And I did not realize this, but Oshkosh runs a week-long, 4 or 5 day long music festival along Main Street.
Yeah, well, I would imagine.
So all these watering holes had outdoor stages with bands rotating every couple hours from 5 until closing Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and then Saturday they started about 9 in the morning.
Yeah,
it's just a marvelous array of bands.
And good players in town.
Yeah, and a chance to get off the field and listen to some music and talk about something other than airplanes.
Yeah. So, time for another break here. It's I'm saying that's a Velocity. Is that a Velocity?
I'm not sure if it's a Velocity or a Barracuda.
Yeah, that's a Velocity.
A Velocity, just coming down and touching down on the southbound runway here, and Ford Tri-Motor taxiing by us here. My point here, lots of activity still going on at AirVenture 2018. We're going to take a quick break. We'll be back in a few minutes to talk about some more things we've seen here. In the meantime, you're listening to Uncontrolled Airspace on EAARadio.
I'm Frank Borman. I commanded Gemini 7 and Apollo 8. And you are listening to EAARadio.
EAARadio is supported in part by Bergstrom Ford Lincoln of the Fox Valley. Bergstrom Ford Lincoln of the Fox Valley, located in Neenah, Wisconsin, sells new and certified used cars and includes service and parts departments, quick lube, and a body shop. More information is available by visiting bergstromfordofneenah.com. Thank you to Bergstrom Ford Lincoln of the Fox Valley for their continued support of EAARadio.
EAARadio now comes in a convenient travel size. Download the EAA AirVenture app for your smartphone and bring EAARadio with you no matter where you go. Like us on Facebook and follow us on Twitter for the latest news, live streams, and more. And follow EAARadio on Instagram and Snapchat to get up close and personal to all the action on the EAA AirVenture grounds. EAARadio at your fingertips and in your pocket on the EAA AirVenture app and on social media at EAARadio.
Good morning, Oshkosh. Today is the last day of AirVenture, and my name is Spencer Schott, bringing you this EAA Radio News Update. The EAA Signature fundraiser has raised nearly $2.4 million this year to go towards youth education. The biggest item auctioned off was a one-of-a-kind Ford Mustang that was sold for more than $400,000. The Mustang had a special design that was inspired by the British Spitfire planes. Today is the last day for any final touches to be added to the 1 Week Wonder. The whole project started at 8 a.m. Monday morning with the goal to build an entire airplane in just 7 days. The last time the EAA attempted to build a plane in a week was back in 2014. This year, the 1 Week Wonder team is building a Vans RV-12IS. Members of the public were encouraged to participate in the building process. 1 Week Wonder coordinator Charlie Becker wants to express his gratitude for everyone that helped out with the project.
Just really want to thank the industry support. We had so many great sponsors that have, everybody we asked said absolutely they want to be a part of it. I mean, this is a big undertaking with both volunteers, and of course I got to thank them because without the volunteer help, this thing wouldn't get off the ground.
Every year at AirVenture Oshkosh, hundreds of aircraft arrive to be entered in a highly competitive and highly sought-after Lindy Award. Named after the legendary aviator Charles Lindbergh, the Lindy Awards look into an aircraft's look, of course, but the degree of craftsmanship involved plays an important role as well. Award-winning aircraft don't just look pretty, but they're carefully built, restored, or maintained by their owners, who take great pride in them. Aircraft can be entered into one of 6 categories: home-built, warbirds, vintage, ultralights, seaplanes, and rotorcraft. Aircraft can only be entered in one category per year and are not eligible for the same or lower tier awards if they've won in the past. A complete list of the Lindy Awards can be found on EAA's website. Reporting for EAA Radio News, I'm Spencer Schott.
For some reason, Dave Higdon thinks that Jack Hodgson is a technology junkie.
I mean, this is the guy that goes to sleep with his iPad mini on the pillow next to him.
Back now with more Uncontrolled Airspace on EAA Radio.
Yeah, okay. By the way, I've upgraded now to an iPad Pro, but yes, I still...
so now you're a pro pad sleeper.
Yeah, no, right, yeah. So, anyways, yeah, it's true. Fair is fair. All right, that was my turn. Welcome back to the flight line of AirVenture 2018 and Uncontrolled Airspace. I'm here with David and James, and we're being joined now by a very, very good friend, an indispensable part of the podcast. Jeff Ward is here with us. Hi, Jeff.
He is.
Jeff's getting distracted, just like all of us. Jeff gets distracted. He's got his nice camera here, and every now and then he goes, "Wait, take a picture." How you doing, Jeff?
I'm doing just wonderful.
Yeah.
Thank you.
First of all, I absolutely have to thank you and Jim G for the work that you did to make the tie-down party happen. You've been doing that for a few years now, and this year was no different. And
well, you're very welcome.
We really appreciate that you making that happen.
It's great. We don't mind. We enjoy it. It's always a fun shopping trip over at Pick and Save.
Yeah, so. It is kind of fun to fill 2 shopping carts full of beer. It's always a thing.
And the third one with ice.
Yeah, and the third one with ice.
Yeah.
That's right. Yeah.
It's nice that they have that cold cooler that you can go into.
Yeah. It does cool you off.
Yeah, and over the years, even Jim G, who's not a beer drinker certainly, is getting the hang of how to pick uncontrolled airspace beers.
We've got him trained up.
Yeah,
now.
that's right. Yeah. So thanks again. That was great. And
no problem.
Back when we first started that, it was basically me going shopping and doing it all. And then over the years, you guys have jumped in, and now I don't have to do anything. I mean, obviously I don't because I wasn't even here this year.
Yeah, we did notice.
But that's really appreciated. Thank you.
The whole thing started by accident.
On the 200th, right?
Yeah, right. It happened by accident on the 200th. What was the story, David?
Well, EAA was nice enough to invite us to do our 200th show live on the Welcome Center stage.
Mm-hmm.
And a couple of our friends with EAA headquarters made this really fancy sign with the letters UCAP 200 carved into it, and they filled it up with Leinenkugels.
Yep.
And afterward was like, what in the world are we going to do with all this beer? There was a lot of beer that they didn't have in there. And Jack says, I know. We'll tweet that we're having a meetup.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
We'll get some coolers. We'll ice it down. We'll give it away. Problem solved.
Mm-hmm.
So that was on a Thursday.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And we got out there, I don't know, 3 or 4 coolers full of beer and some chips. And as people came and go, and it started the questioning. So you guys doing this again next year, right?
Yeah.
And all independently, we go,
yeah. So it solved our problem and then created a whole lot of work for Jim G and Jeff Ward, right?
And we've been doing it ever since.
Yeah.
And I don't even know how long ago that was now.
We'd have, 200th
2010,
episode,
wasn't it?
Would be like 2010, I guess. Yeah. I'd have to
So
look
this
it up.
would have been the 9th.
Yeah. 200th episode would be about our 4th year. We started in 60, about 10. Yeah, 2010. Yeah. So, anyways, it's a good time. Don't necessarily put on your calendar the location, but put it on your calendar Thursday night of AirVenture 2019. We'll do it again.
Yep.
How's the week been for you, Jeff? You seen anything fun?
Yeah, it's been good. I mean, it's been busy. The field and the campground and everything were full.
Yeah.
There seemed to be a lot of people in the exhibits. I did take a chance, a few minutes to go over to the innovation area, and I looked at a couple of things. They had the I'm going to get this wrong, black fly.
Black fly, yep.
Yeah, the
Sure fly.
odd looking.
Huh?
Black fly and sure fly.
And they had the shore fly as
And
well.
the shore fly,
Shorefly had their multi-copter passenger carrying device, and Blackfly had theirs, and they had a couple of prototypes in there. So that was interesting to see. They're clearly trying to get the word out.
Yeah.
I went over to the NASA tent, which I don't always do, and it was jamming. They were just a lot of people in there. They had a lot of interesting stuff. They were. I picked up a flyer for the X-57 Maxwell, which is going to be the first all-electric X-plane from NASA.
Really? Okay.
And it's based on a Technam 2006, I think, or something like that.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, so that looks like an interesting thing, and it's going to be a long X program for research and all that into the suitability of electric aircraft for large scale.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's cool.
Yeah. Speaking of electric aircraft, so the foam plane.
Yes.
James.
Oh, from Peter Strippall.
Yes.
Yeah, from Peter Strippall. So I actually had seen this on YouTube. This is Peter Strippall is a pretty active YouTuber.
Yes.
Oh, yeah. big time.
And he does a lot of stuff from the RC world, I believe, or in the drone world, or that.
Yeah,
that
it was
kind
pretty
of world.
much all of that until he scaled it up to this thing.
Right.
he built now.
and he's kind of notable for being a pretty adventurous engineer in terms of building various RCs and drones and all that kind of stuff.
Yep.
And then all of a sudden he announces, or I don't know exactly how it came about because I heard about it after it already started, after he was already flying it, but he built this electric-powered little one-seat ultralight, I guess. All right.
Yes.
But James, you interviewed him. I
did.
What did you learn about that?
Well, first I was told to go out and look for a foam airplane,
Yes.
and I thought it was like just a big foam sculpture or something. I didn't know it actually flew. And then I got down there to just north of the Tall Pine Cafe where it was parked, and he was sitting there holding court, and there's this aquamarine and yellow biplane, and you can see it's unpainted, so you see the writing on it. It's inscriptions like polystyrene extruded insulation and Lowe's.
Yeah.
And he's sitting there in it. So he decided, Peter, 26 years old last year, looking at the ultralights, and said, I told myself I'm not getting any younger. I better build an airplane.
Okay.
So essentially he felt he was building just a larger foamy, because he is one of these aero modelers who kind of have been on the forefront of what they call building foamies, aircraft out of this insulation material. So a wonderful story.
Yep.
It's
electric powered.
It's electric power, yes. Two 150cc model airplane engines.
Okay.
With about 30 pounds of batteries.
Right.
And it's got about 20 minutes of flight time on it.
Yeah.
And he's not sure how much more it will accumulate, but he definitely wants to build more.
Right. Now, how is this thing? Is it ultralight? Is it Part 103? Or
It's it's ultralight, so no regulations on anything.
Right.
Didn't have to be signed off, etc.
Yeah. Yeah, very cool. And the videos, you watch the videos of him doing this back, and you go, really? What is he doing?
Yeah.
Right, and there's actually, he mounts cameras under the wings and shows himself flying this thing. And
He clearly knows what he's doing on the engineering side, I believe, and the construction side, although he downplays those skills.
Yeah, he's very clever.
And because watching the videos, having just watched the videos, I always wondered whether this was totally legal. All right. But the fact that he's here must be past some muster. And it's a very interesting thing. It's really, the electric aircraft is a big deal these days. It's
it should be noted he's from Dayton, Ohio, which obviously it's a town known, shall we say, for aviation innovation. But
something in the water.
He wears that mantle a little uneasily. He says, "I built this. Everybody wants to get out of Dayton. I built this airplane to get out of Dayton."
If I can tie something in just to the RC side of things, because that was a big part of what I was doing here this week. I'm a life member of both EAA and the Academy of Model Aeronautics, AMA, and they sent out an email asking for volunteers to staff some of their work this week. So I did 3 shifts. So that was very cool. They fly on Pioneer Field between 6 and 9 every evening, and members who brought their planes can fly them up there, and they also have some models to fly people who don't have one. And I also staffed the simulator trailer down here in the fun fly zone, so people could come up and try the RC sim. So,
cool.
I appreciate the cooperation there between EAA and AMA, because a lot of notable pilots, astronauts started their careers in modeling. So that's another good way to get people into the field.
Mike Chapman, who's performing here, started as an RC modeler.
Yeah, absolutely.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Very cool. Yeah. Well, before we go into the break, I want to see if I can do so. Quickly, Jeff. No, I will shake your hand, but I'm pointing to you.
Oh, yes.
Your first time to AirVenture, to Oshkosh.
Oh.
When was this?
2010, Sloshkosh.
Sloshkosh.
Yeah.
Why do we call it Sloshkosh?
Because it had rained and rained and rained, and everything was mud.
Yeah.
The fields, the North 40 was half empty or more empty than that. They couldn't bring any of the campers. It was only tent camping for the first few days, really. The larger RVs had to be. So I was sharing an RV that year with a couple of other podcasters, and we were out in a parking lot of an old Sears store, which we dubbed Camp Used to be Sears.
Oh, that's right. I forgot about that part. Right, a lot of campers
they had
got redirected off-site.
Had a lot of remote campsites.
They had people scattered out at the fairgrounds, over in the parking lot of the outlet mall.
Yeah.
Because day 2, some people stopped by the newspaper office, and we came by to get a paper, and they're in boxes all over. We're not camped here.
Yeah.
So we made arrangements to start delivering to all those remote campsites.
And what really strikes me about that year was the just awesome job that EAA had done, and apparently in contingency planning, because they didn't pull it together at the last minute. All those remote sites, at Camp Used to be Sears, we had shower trailers, porta potties, 24-hour security, and shuttle buses.
Yeah, it was quite an operation.
They didn't just pull that out of thin air.
Well, it had rained something like 12 out of the prior 15 days. And we had a picture on page 1 of the first day paper of a Bonanza in the North 40 that had gotten here early, and it's sitting in water up above the axles, and the headline said "Splashkosh."
You talk about the planning. One of my more vivid memories, not terribly important memory, but vivid, is that I swear EAA cornered the market on traffic cones. Right, there were traffic cones everywhere because they were marking off. Don't taxi here, don't walk here. Right. This is a big puddle, right? And there were. We asked Dick Napinski how many cones. I forget the number, but
it was a big number.
It was a big number, and I don't know whether they got rid of them or whether they're still stashed away someplace. But there were
maybe they rented
cones
them
everywhere, right? So,
but I survived that trip and kept coming back, so that's a good thing.
Anyways, we need to take another break here. We're still enjoying the sights out here on the flight line at AirVenture 2018. When we get back from the break, we're going to be joined by our good friend from EAA, Charlie Becker's here, going to talk to us about One Week Wonder and other things at EAA. But in the meantime, you're listening to a very special episode of Uncontrolled Airspace on EAA Radio.
You're listening to the voice of EAA, EAA Radio, 96.5 FM, 1210 AM, and EAARadio.net. Support for EAA Radio comes from Scheme Designers, specializing in exterior designs for aircraft of all types, sizes, and models, working with each client from inception through application. Design photos and contact information can be found on their Facebook page under Scheme Designers and at schemedesigners.com. Or you can visit them on the AirVenture Oshkosh grounds in Hangar Charlie at booth 3056. Thanks to Scheme Designers Incorporated for supporting EAA Radio.
Hello, enthusiasts. Granny Bellcrank here with AirVenture Oshkosh Etiquette Rule number 14. Keep an eye out for the aircraft parking volunteers. They might all of a sudden ask you to stop and wait while an aircraft taxis across the sidewalk. Unless you want a haircut that you did not make an appointment for, stop right there if the nice lady asks you to. Or fellow. Oh, and if it is a fella, let me know if he's a cute one, okay? Time's a-wasting.
Tune in and tag along with Captain Midnight and Company at 11:30 on Sunday as their mission sweeps them around the globe, propelling them into riveting twists and turns. We'll be re-airing 2 episodes of this classic 1940s radio program back-to-back, reverberating the adventure into this century with thrills and frills aplenty. Tune in Sunday at 11:30 to experience the excitement, mystery, and suspense of Captain Midnight. That's Sunday at 11:30 on EAA Radio.
You're listening to EAA Radio. I'm meteorologist Michaela Erickson. Temperatures will be rising into the mid-70s by 1 p.m. today with westerly winds sitting around 5 knots. Cloud cover will increase to partly sunny skies as the day moves forward with a slight chance of rain and thunderstorms in the afternoon. Have a fantastic day of AirVenture and thanks for listening to EAA Radio.
If you're looking for a sweet deal, EAA AirVenture Oshkosh is the place to find it. A number of forums are dedicated to selecting hardware such as integrated flight instrumentation, ADS-B equipment, and noise reduction headsets. After the forums, stop by the exhibit halls to learn more about the latest equipment, ask questions, and get insider advice. Don't forget the static displays. Regardless of what you're looking for, a powered parachute, a drone, a light sport airplane, or heck, even a single pilot business jet, you'll get to compare several devices side by side. If you're looking for deals, check out the bulletin boards around the grounds, where you might find a nearly perfect airplane for the perfect price. Lastly, if you're looking for something really hard to find, don't forget the Aeromart, the aviation flea market. EAA AirVenture Oshkosh, the deal of the century. We think Jack Hodgson may be struggling with relationships in the 21st century.
Exactly how do I go about consenting under these new rules?
Back now with more Uncontrolled Airspace on EAA Radio.
This must be payback. I made that comment about Jeb getting all the love, and now suddenly I'm getting it over and over again. We're back here on the flight line at AirVenture 2018. I'm Jack Daves here. Amy's rejoined us, and we're being joined by another good friend of the podcast. Charlie Becker is here. How you doing, Charlie?
Tired.
Yeah, I bet you are. I bet you are. We actually referenced you just a couple minutes ago. We were relating the story about the episode 200 thing when you guys gave us all the beers, and and how that began the tie-down party, and that was you and Fareed, I believe, wasn't it?
Yes, it was.
Yeah, and you were kind of central behind that. We really appreciated that. That was a lot of fun. You wear so many hats at EAA. But I bet one of them's taken up a lot of your time this week, and that's the One Week Wonder project. We now apparently know, we've got some data, and we now know that the mean time between One Week Wonders is 4 years. All right, so I don't know whether that's going to come back and haunt you or not. All right, but
it's better than 2.
I remember talking to you after the first One Week Wonder, and it was a little like talking to a mom who had just given birth. All right, and some insensitive people will say, "So when are you going to have your next one?" And that was the look in your eyes. It was kind of like, "Really? Come on." But you did it again this year, and it looks like it's been a big hit again. Yeah. How's it going? What's going on over there?
Great. I mean, as exhausting as it is to pull something like this together, I mean, we've been working with Vans Aircraft now and all the other sponsors, Rotax, Garmin, and Aircraft Producer. I mean, we've been working with them for months and months and months. It's a lot of man hours, but it's too good not to do again, regardless of.
Yeah, I mean,
how much work it is.
Except for the work part, it's an awesome thing. If you had the manpower, I would urge you to do it every year, right? Because it's just a tremendous opportunity to expose people to the idea of home building, and I mean, we see that just standing there. David did one of our dailies from over there, where he actually interviewed some of the folks who were there to pull their rivet and talk to them about how it was affecting their view of the whole thing, and it's a very positive thing. I'm sure you've discovered that, and
oh yeah, I mean, without a doubt. I mean, everyone loves it. I mean, the webcams have been popular, people watching from home, but there's always a steady stream of people lining up to pull rivets. In fact, last time around we had about 3,000 pins, I want to say, and we didn't quite give them all out. This time we had 4,000, and we were out Saturday morning. Mm-hmm. So we've taught over 4,000 people how to pull rivets on aircraft.
Mm-hmm. So. Yeah. Now, I noticed that this year, once again, we were signing our rivets, all right, which is very cool. I enjoy doing that, but that turned into a little bit of a problem last time. Do you have a different kind of plan this time?
Yeah, so when you signed your rivet, you also hopefully got your photo taken, and we emailed it to you. So anybody whose name went into that email, because we asked first and last name, those names will be embedded in the vinyl striping on the aircraft. So we figured out last time that trying to read people's names from a builder's log was problematic.
That wasn't working. Oh, okay, so you captured the names that way. Yeah. No, I got my picture in my email. I've already tweeted it. It's out there. So
awesome.
Yeah, that's so there are lots of people. I mean, well, I guess we can't put this off any longer. How's it going? Is it?
It's going really good.
Yeah.
It's still going to come right down the wire. It is. You're trying to do something that is quite difficult. I mean, even though we did it last time and we're successful, it's still. I mean, you plan and plan and plan, and then you get to the reality of there's only so much time in the week, and we call it a 1 week wonder, but it's actually 6.5 days, as you know. So it's tough. I mean, it's a challenging project, and you're in this. Most builders are not ever observed working every time they're doing it, and they don't usually have somebody with a microphone, and cheering crowds and all that. So it's a different format, but it's going good.
Yeah.
And I do expect we did an engine run last night, did it again this morning. I fully expect it to taxi this afternoon. Hopefully get the airworthiness done today as well, assuming we got enough time in there. And then tomorrow, as you know, the NOTAMs still affect tomorrow. So on Tuesday, if all's progresses as we planned, should be the first flight.
That's cool. Very, very cool. Obviously, you had thousands of helpers like me popping a rivet. How many actual, kind of volunteers are there on that project?
We had about 100 what I'd call our core volunteers that pulled at least 1 4-hour shift. And that varied from a few that had zero experience to some that had built a couple, 3 aircraft. So.
Yeah. And although you didn't actually begin building this aircraft until Monday or the beginning of the week, there must have been a lot of planning on kind of like we're going to do this step and then this step and then how does that work? Is that in advance?
Oh, absolutely. You got to have a plan. Although again, you're kind of just saying, hey, we think we need to be here by Monday afternoon. You don't really know because you've never done it in this format before. So you really don't know what the right answer is. Even though people keep track of their time on builds, and the good news with like Van's aircraft, they're extremely popular in the teen build program. So those give you a good idea how long something like this takes. But you still are kind of guessing at where you need to be on a certain date and time.
Yeah.
Now, memory serves, after the first 1 week wonder, you guys started a different kind of project to help encourage people to home build. If memory serves, it was 4 different kit airplanes. You started them here, and then the kits went out to different chapters to finish and fly. How'd that end up?
So that was actually what we called Give Flight, and we did 5 sets of wings over the course of the week. Those wings went out to 5 different chapters. 2 of them finished and met the challenge of bringing it back last year, so a 2-year build as a group project. The other ones have not, and I'm not 100% sure. I know one is a teen build program, and they're not quite done, and Sonics is very close to being done. I don't know if they've finished it yet or not. And I lost touch with one of them up in Canada. I just don't know what the status on that one is. I was a little disappointed, to be honest. I really thought they'd all accomplish the 2-year goal.
Yeah, because there was a lot of enthusiasm for that. There were people lined up to help build the different wings.
Yep.
When you guys had it over there, and some people that I chatted with were real picky. They wanted to work on one specific one or the other because they were thinking about that airplane.
That's
or
right.
They built that airplane. I guess the bottom line is it's still a project in progress, even though it's gone beyond the 2-year goal.
Yeah, and it really accomplished what we were specifically trying to do, which was, again, to expose everybody to the practical, hey, you can build your own aircraft. And that's what's great about what we're doing this year with the 1 Week Wonder is you're right on show center, kind of right. Everybody walks past it. And, we have great workshops going on all the time every year. But unless you come in with the idea like, hey, I want to build an aircraft, you may never make it over or even realize there's so much to see. I mean, you could completely overlook the home built area.
Yeah.
Well,
and that's what I wanted to – I'm sorry, David, go ahead.
I was just going to say the daily we did, folks want to listen to it, Jack titled it, fingernail test.
Yeah.
Yeah,
that's right.
That's correct.
It's a big, apparently a big part of it. That's what I learned from listening to the episode. Not surprisingly, given your work with the One Week Wonder program, that you are involved on it all year round with the home building part of EAA. And one of the places around the grounds that I really enjoy a lot, and I try to make sure I visit a couple times each year, but that is a little bit off the beaten track, and that's the Home Builders Hangar over there. I'm not sure if that's the official name of it, but there's always some interesting airplanes on display. The original One Week Wonder is over there now.
Correct.
I was searching for my name. I don't know if my signature made it on there or not, but I was searching the other day. I'll have to go back and look some more. So that's a really, really pleasant spot. And then there's also the Home Builders Clubhouse or whatever that's out on the flight line. I understand from some comments that Jack Pelton made that you're going to make some changes during the year to kind of join those two areas. Is that what is going to happen? Or what's going to change over there?
Yeah, so we've been working kind of on a long-term plan to more, bring the area together to make a little bit more sense, because we had some buildings that were there that were older, kind of shabby looking. When you think about it, EAA started around the amateur build side of things, and so we were kind of we were the first buildings, just like your downtown in the city, and then all of a sudden we built those 4 big exhibit hangars, and everybody bought a house in the suburbs, so to speak.
Yeah.
And here we are still downtown, so we're kind of going through that downtown revitalization project.
There you go. I like it.
And we took one old building out a couple of years ago, and next year, right after convention, we're going to move everybody from the Federal Pavilion, and we're going to relocate that within the confines of Hangar D.
Okay.
So, and then we're going to drop the Federal Pavilion, and our plan right now, we're still working through the details, is that we would create kind of a home built and review area similar to what Vintage and Warbirds have.
Right, yeah.
It could really be kind of a focal point. And it'll do a better job, too, by removing that building of connecting the workshop areas and the forums area with the home-built area, because they're all kind of intertwined.
That sounds like that could be a really nice area, nice space. And
it has the added benefit of improving Hangar D, so less Ginsu knives and massage chairs in Hangar D.
See, I would never have said that out loud, but yes, that would be a good thing.
We'll always have the fly market. I mean, my family comes up; they love going to the fly market.
You can get cooking lessons there.
But there are a few corners of the exhibit hangars that have some superfluous stuff. Yeah, so
that one had kind of gotten out of whack, and we tried to address it.
That's a nice plan. I like it. We're here talking with Charlie Becker of EAA about One Week Wonder and home building in general. There's a F-18 sort of doing a run-up-ish kind of thing over here on the F-18F, I'm told. And he's making some noise, you probably heard, doing some sort of run-up or engine start thing. Probably going to be taxiing out. I'm being held up sign here. Charlie, something to tell us about what's going on with chapters. Yet another hat that you wear here.
So one of the things we did this year was we created, we actually got it last year, but we completely rehabbed this, what we call the Chapter Social Pavilion, right on the edge of Paul Woods across from Aeromart.
Okay.
And we've had a different chapter in every day offering a pancake breakfast as a fundraiser for that chapter, and they get to take the net profits back home with them. And that's been a huge success.
That's
Everybody
terrific.
who's camping loves it because they can just get up, go over and have a great pancake breakfast. And yet the chapters love it because it's a new home for chapters on a social side.
I didn't get here till late this week, so I didn't notice. I didn't realize that was there. That sounds like a terrific thing for everybody involved. Yeah,
they came through Camp Bacon a couple of times selling tickets.
Yeah. So
that's what happens when you don't show up.
Yeah. Anyways, we got to take a break here. I want to thank Charlie for taking a few minutes from trying to get an airplane finished and coming by and talk to us. Thank you, Charlie. Thanks for all the stuff you do for pilots. Thanks for being a good friend at UCAP. We really appreciate it.
My pleasure.
All
Keep
right.
up the great work, guys. I
Thank
listen
you.
every week.
Thank you.
Or 2 weeks, or 3 weeks, or 4 weeks.
Now. All right, we'll talk about that offline. All right, here we go. All right. We do have to take a break here. They're wagging their hands at me frantically here. We're having a great time watching the airplanes and talking with our friends out here on the flight line of AirVenture 2018. You're listening to a special episode of Uncontrolled Airspace on EAARadio.
My name is Stan. I come from Montgomery, Alabama, and we came in a Bushby Mustang too.
My name's Haley. I flew in an L-39, and I'm from Rockford, Illinois.
My name is Peter. We're from Windsor, Ontario, Canada, and fly an RV-9.
Hi, my name is Mike. I'm from Mosinee, Wisconsin, and I fly a Cessna 182. And you're listening to EAA Radio.
EAA Radio is sponsored in part by Papa John's, located in Hangar Alpha and at the entrance to the Fly-In Theater. Papa John's is open from 7 a.m. to 9 p.m. and open late on Wednesday and Saturday until 10 p.m. for the night air show, offering 8-inch pepperoni, sausage, and cheese pizza, plus chicken poppers and a variety of dipping sauces. A full menu is available for delivery to the AirVenture grounds from the main Oshkosh store by calling 920-232-7272.
Houston, Racine,
Pittsburgh. EAA Radio broadcasts all around the world.
London, New York,
Fiji. And not just to radio listeners in Oshkosh.
I like Wisconsin.
We live stream to every continent on the globe.
You'll always have Paris.
Let us know where you're listening from. Send us a tweet and tag us with @EAARadio. Or post to our Facebook page, EAA Radio. Where are you listening from? Tell us.
Columbus.
Gantoy, Seattle.
Good morning, Oshkosh. Today is the last day of AirVenture, and my name is Spencer Schott, bringing you this EAA Radio News Update. The EAA's signature fundraiser has raised nearly $2.4 million this year to go towards youth education. The biggest item auctioned off was a one-of-a-kind Ford Mustang that was sold for more than $400,000. The Mustang had a special design that was inspired by the British Spitfire planes. Today is the last day for any final touches to be added to the one-week wonder. The whole project started at 8 a.m. Monday morning with the goal to build an entire airplane in just 7 days. The last time the EAA attempted to build a plane in a week was back in 2014. This year, the One Week Wonder team is building a Vans RV-12IS. Members of the public were encouraged to participate in the building process. One Week Wonder coordinator Charlie Becker wants to express his gratitude for everyone that helped out with the project.
Just really want to thank the industry support. We had so many great sponsors that have, everybody we asked said absolutely they want to be a part of it. I mean, this is a big undertaking with both volunteers, and of course I got to thank them because without the volunteer help, this thing wouldn't get off the ground.
Every year at AirVenture Oshkosh, hundreds of aircraft arrive to be entered in a highly competitive and highly sought-after Lindy Award. Named after the legendary aviator Charles Lindbergh, the Lindy Awards look into an aircraft's look, of course, but the degree of craftsmanship involved plays an important role as well. Award-winning aircraft don't just look pretty, but they're carefully built, restored, or maintained by their owners, who take great pride in them. Aircraft can be entered into one of 6 categories: home-built, warbirds, vintage, ultralights, seaplanes, and rotorcraft. Aircraft can only be entered in one category per year and are not eligible for the same or lower tier awards if they've won in the past. A complete list of the Lindy Awards can be found on EAA's website. Reporting for EAA Radio News, I'm Spencer Schott.
Jack Hodgson now demonstrates air traffic control phraseology.
No, don't do that. That's wrong. You guys should not be landing any of these places.
Back now with more Uncontrolled Airspace on EAA Radio.
All right, this is too much to be a coincidence. I think Mike Morgan is out there someplace hand-picking these now, because we had like 2 Jebs and now 3 Jacks, and
oh, that's a full house.
Yeah. Okay, we're back here on the flight line of AirVenture 2018 for one final segment here before we wrap things up and go out and do our final bits here. Speaking of final bits, so what's everybody? David, you got to take off. You're leaving, right? Pretty soon after we finish here.
Yeah, pretty soon. I'm about 2/3 or so packed back in the little gray truck.
So
and
because 12 days was probably enough.
Yeah, it usually is.
Yeah.
And I'm going to point myself southbound. Let's see, 151 to 80, 80 to 35, 35 to Wichita.
There you go.
It's 790 miles. If I get off the ground about 12:30, I should be in my driveway by 1:30, 1:45.
There you go.
He doesn't even need a GPS anymore. I love it.
I kind of the same way. I come and go between here and New England, and I know the way. James, are you leaving today or?
No, I'm going to leave tomorrow, but looking forward to getting home. I was at Farnborough for a week before here. I was home for 1 day, here for 10, so it'll be nice to get back home.
I bet it will be. What, you got any particular plans here on the grounds this afternoon? Something you didn't get a chance to see that you want to catch up on?
Actually, I've gone to A-Base the last couple of years, and I haven't had a chance to see the Chinese pavilion here, the China Pavilion. And
one of the Aeroshell team T6s is taking off. That was that big noise you just heard.
And I know they have a tremendous enthusiasm for general aviation there, so I want to see their presence, their permanent presence here.
Cool. Amy, how about you? You got a little bit stuck here. You had some mechanical problems on your airplane.
I'm unusually long this year, going 10 days at AirVenture, but it's not a terrible situation. We had a little more oil than we had ever seen
on the outside of the airplane.
On the outside of the airplane when we landed. So we've made some repairs. We think we've solved the problem. But we've kind of retooled our exit out of here so that the first leg is really only about 45 minutes. And then we'll spend the night. Airplane can be safely in a hangar with a drip pan under it. We'll check again, make sure that oil leak has been corrected for sure.
Right.
But then we're heading toward the mountains.
That's what I want to ask.
And that is the reason why we kind of retooled the Adventure just a bit, so that we can make darn tootin' sure that everybody's working just fine. Because you don't want to have mechanical in the mountains.
No, you don't. So you do this most every year. You head off on an adventure in your airplane.
Well,
after
here's
Oshkosh.
the deal. You complain about it being quite warm up here on the stand today, but I'm just laughing at you because if I go home, it's warmer.
I know, you Florida people.
It's warmer.
I get it.
So I'm actually going to try out Canada this year a little bit. Take a side trip up to Kelowna, where I hear there's some very nice wineries.
Ooh, there you go.
And mountains.
And you're going sailing, right?
I am going sailing as well.
That'd be
so
fun.
going to get a little island hopping in. So if all that comes to pass,
nice.
I should be a pretty happy camper in September back in Florida.
So this is a very Oshkosh moment. The Ford Trimotor, or a Trimotor, just landed in front of us at the same time that an F-18 fighter is taxiing out to make its way to presumably to a runway.
Marine Corps.
Yeah, it's painted up nice, isn't it?
It is.
And unless he's going to back taxi, he's going to do an intersection departure from about midfield.
I doubt he's doing intersection. He's taxiing out onto the.
I bet he's crossing.
He's crossing to the.
Or back taxiing.
Okay. No, there he is. He's back taxiing on 18 now. And,
I don't think he has enough drop tanks.
yeah, he's carrying a lot of something, fuel presumably. Although there might be gear, you never know. A lot of activity here. Like I said, the Ford Trimotor. I do see a few private airplanes still taxiing here. I see them taxiing out from the grass.
Well, we've had a good flow of arrivals this morning too. So, other people know the show's not over. There's still stuff to see, smell, taste, touch, and do.
Yeah,
and plenty of parking spaces.
What do we hear? The longtime listeners know that we have a legendary list that we use to keep track of things we want to talk about, and that's what I'm looking. I made my little Oshkosh version of the list here, and I'm trying to see if there's things that we didn't talk about that we should talk about.
You can't possibly have run out of things to talk about.
No, I haven't talked, but I just want to see what. More to the point here. I'm trying to figure out which ones I don't want to not talk about. That's what I want to do here. Sean Tucker retires this year, which is kind of a bittersweet moment here. Sean Tucker, one of the really legendary air show pilots.
He and the Oracle Challenger just been shredding the air here this week.
Yeah, he's. It's like Captain Haynes once told us. It's Captain Haynes who commanded the plane that crashed and saved most of his people in Sioux City, Iowa, I think. Anyways, and he went on a talking tour afterwards about safety in aviation, and it was back before they raised the retirement age for airline captains or airline pilots, and people asked him whether or not he was in favor of extending the age to greater than 60, and his response was that he wasn't in favor of raising the age because he said there has to be something positive that causes people to stop flying. You don't want to wait until something bad happens to stop flying, and so
Well, Richard Collins did the same thing. Richard Collins made the decision to stop flying
and so
when it felt right for him, not when the FAA said you can't have a medical or something like that.
Or an incident, So
exactly.
My point here is I applaud Sean Tucker for realizing that maybe the time has come for him to pull back a little bit, and he's still very involved in aviation. He teaches aviation.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. He's got some philanthropic projects going that are just terrific.
Yeah. So
there was
that.
He'll have a lot of time for it now.
What else happened here? It was a big week. One measure that was a big week was the EAA ran out of the souvenir pins and patches this year. All right, like on Saturday morning they ran out. All right.
Oh yeah, Womenventure ran out of T-shirts almost immediately. It was amazing.
Yeah. So it's been a good week here. Doc, the night show, the fireworks, the running out of stuff, big crowds.
A lot of avionics news, some new airplanes in the north commercial area. The new mock-up for the Cessna Denali. The Switchblade was here.
The PC-24 was here.
Yes.
Nice jet.
A lot of,
Mm-hmm. Yeah. What's nice about it? What do you particularly like?
Well, I like that it's low enough to the ground. I love the giant cargo door.
Hang on, here we go. We're going to get interrupted. Here comes the F-18 on the roll here. You really can feel it almost as much as hearing it.
Oh, yeah. You know, the B-1 bomber,
the
canceled night show, the one thing I saw of it was the B-1 bomber made a pass in full afterburner.
I saw video of that. I was obviously not here yet. Yeah, that must have been something, huh? Because he did some of that sort of big spiral climb up out of the area with afterburners on. Yeah, that must have been a thing. Yeah, very, very cool.
It made my car shake.
Yeah. I believe it. The F-18 lifted off from the runway, then kind of leveled off at about 50, 75 feet and gained some speed, but then pulled up. And we thought he was going to do one of those super-duper vertical climbs. Mm-hmm. He did a good climb, but he's heading off to the southeast right now. And,
I think that was the defensive climb, followed by a Piper J3 Cub.
By a Piper Cub, use caution, wake turbulence.
Yeah, he was just trying to be polite and get out of the way for the Cub. Yeah, that's what was going on there.
That's right. Yeah, they're definitely getting back on the runway now. So it's been a great year. I missed most of it, sadly. I'm determined not to do that next year, but it's
you gotta eat, Jack.
Yeah,
you gotta eat.
No, eating's overrated when it's compared to Oshkosh. Come on. Yeah. So, thank you, everyone. We appreciate it. Where we got? We got a couple more minutes here, but we do need to thank some people. All right. We want to certainly thank Sean Chuplis from Crew Dog Electronics for stopping by and talking to us about his product and about his experience in the service. The two more T6s here, the Aeroshell T6s, two of them. Where are the rest of them? I only see the two right now.
We want to thank Charlie Becker for coming over and updating us on the 1 week wonder. And if you're around, expectations are it will taxi this afternoon.
Mm-hmm. Yep. What was I going to say? I lost Jeff Ward.
Yeah,
that's what I was going to say.
That's what I was going to say.
Jeff Ward's been here. Jeff's been in the background. He's actually been not only joining us on the podcast, but has been helping out here, as he does all year round, helping out kind of behind the scenes. And he's actually been standing by and greeting our guests as they arrive. So that's been much appreciated. So, Jeff, thank you for all your help with the podcast. We appreciate that. Big thanks to our friends at EAARadio for hosting us here. They've been very, very gracious over the years, allowing us to take over their airwaves and finding us this awesome spot out on the flight line.
And specifically Mike Morgan for the bumpers.
Brent and Andrew are our engineers here out on the flight line. We appreciate all the help that they've given us. Everybody at EAARadio, but especially Tommy and Jim, I think of them as co-chairman, but the guys who make EAARadio happen. We appreciate all the friendship that they've given us.
Jim G for the work on the tie-down party, and of course Jeff, Amy, and James being here with us.
That's right.
My pleasure, our pleasure.
That's right. Thank you, guys. I'm Jack Hodgson. That's Dave Higdon. Dave, was there something you wanted to say to us?
To live to our age, you need to fly, because time spent flying is not subtracted from your lifespan. Bye-bye.
And that's enough talking. Let's go flying.
The voice of EAA. EAA Radio. 96.5 FM, 1210 AM, and online at EAARadio.net.